Before I get started with the video, I just want to say that if you support what I do, consider ordering one of my innovative thumbstick upgrades. Link to the store is in the description of this video. I recently came across these analogs on Alibaba, and they claim to be Hall effect upgrades for the DualSense controller, and they also have a version for the Xbox Series controller and as well as the DualShock 4. So I just wanted to buy a set and to see if they're any good or if they work at all. So let's see if these things are actually Hall effect sticks. Yep. So if you look inside, that little tiny circuit, that's the Hall effect sensor. And these are magnets on the inside. So these are in fact Hall effect sticks. So let's put them to the test to see if they're any good.
All right, so let's test this out on Gamepad Tester. I only put the Hall effect stick on the left stick, and the right stick I left it normal. This is a brand new controller, so it's going to be a nice fair comparison. Wow, so right away, there's a lot of noise on the left stick, and the right stick is nice and smooth. But you know, it's actually, honestly, it's not too bad. Actually pretty similar to the way the DualShock 4 was. This is about as much noise as the older PlayStation controller had on the built-in sticks. So let's do a circularity test. Okay, so a little bit more error. It's a little bit more sensitive. It's getting a little stronger of an output than the standard potentiometers. And how you see it looking square around it, that's actually pretty normal. That's how most controllers are. And the reason why some controllers will look perfectly circular is really just because there's an outer dead zone built into the software of the controller. Like, for example, a lot of these Hall effect controllers out there, they're perfectly circular. They're not really. It's just built into the software like that. It's not too bad, to be honest. It's not as good as obviously the built-in standard stick, but it's not really that bad. It actually kind of might be playable. Alright, so to test it out, I opened up REWASD, and what I did is I put the aiming on both the left and the right stick. So we're first going to test it on the right stick, so let me turn this one off, apply. Okay. Yep, so this is the standard stick. You can see mostly just pay attention to micro movements. If I move it really slow, you can see how generally how smooth micro movements will be. So obviously brand new controller, works perfect. So now we're going to try it out on the left stick. So let's turn this one off. Okay, so right away we're getting a lot of downward drift. You are supposed to manually calibrate these, but I was messing around with it for about 10 minutes, and this was as best as I could get it to sit in the center. So, I mean, one thing that I'm going to need to do right away is I'm going to need to increase the dead zone size. So I had to pretty much double the dead zone size to get rid of the drift. But let's see how it feels in micro movements. Little skippy. Yeah, you could kind of see the noise happening. You could see how jittery my movement is. But, you know, honestly, I have a pretty high sensitivity. It's not that bad. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. But it really is good enough to kind of get you by. I would say that if you go through controllers a lot and you're constantly just burning out the regular standard sticks and you're getting a lot of drift constantly, then after you get drift, it might just be worth installing one of these sticks if it happens all the time. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't do what I did in getting a brand new controller and installing it. But other than that, it's totally playable. It's not really that bad.
So bottom line, would I recommend these sticks? Well, honestly, it depends. They're actually pretty cheap, and maybe to put inside an old controller that you want to save it, especially a controller that goes through a lot of heavy use and you're not looking for the most accuracy possible, they're actually pretty decent. They're not too bad. But yeah, just because something has the name Hall effect on it doesn't make it better. And that kind of brings up the subject of why haven't we been using Hall effect sensors all along in controllers? And a lot of people accuse these companies of greed because they want controllers to break down. But in my opinion, I don't really think that's the case. I mean, technology is always increasing. Circuits and everything, all these sensors are becoming more and more accurate over the years. And it just kind of shows you that if something that costs twice as much as a normal thumbstick, if it's has half the accuracy of a potentiometer, that's the reason they're using these potentiometers and these controllers. So you're starting to see a lot more Hall effect controllers starting to pop up on the market, and that is partially because the technology is catching up. But as somebody who has a lot of experience with aiming and testing out my aim and testing out controllers and everything, so far I haven't yet come across a Hall effect sensor that includes the goalie kit that is quite as accurate as a normal standard potentiometer controller, especially one that's brand new and doesn't really have any wear. So I think that's really the main reason why you're not seeing this in normal controllers. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm completely bashing Hall effect sticks. I did have to switch to a goalie kit controller just because I was getting drift and having to replace an analog about once a week when I was heavily pursuing my aim lab tasks. So I don't want to sound like I'm completely bashing it. I really do think that it is, for people who put a lot of wear on the controllers, it definitely is a really good option. And I really hope to see more controllers using it. But what I really wish is that you could just spend like 10, 20 more dollars on a controller and just have high quality Hall effects sensors on it. Because the higher quality ones are for sure more accurate than these standard potentiometers. With that said, there is actually somebody who's working on high quality Hall effect sticks. His name is Marius Heyer, and I'm going to link his video in the description. I'm currently subscribed to him on Patreon, and as soon as I get one of the sticks from him, I'll give you guys a detailed and honest review on them. But that said, I'm sure they're going to be awesome. And for those who are wondering, yes, I'm still working on my frictionless analogs. I'll try and get you guys an update with that soon.